Hey artists and animators! I'm taking on the challenge of improving an old piece I did way back in 2011, nearly 9 years ago. I've learned a whole lot since then, but I just kind of want to identify 3 things you can do right now to improve from wherever you're at. These things, they don't take a pencil mileage or particular practice. They're just different ways to think about starting whatever piece, whether it's a character or an environment or both. We'll talk about emotions, thumbnails, and reference. First thing I'm starting off with is once you get that pretty image in your head that you're dying to put on paper, try to identify some emotional words to go with what you want. I already have my image here, so try to jog my memory on what 11-year-old me was going for. It looks kind of pensive, sad, defensive, a little bit uncomfortable the way he's holding the keyblade. And from that, I can start sketching out poses. At this point, I'm really loose and essentially making stick figures, trying a whole lot of different stuff. Anything that comes to my head at this point. Some may look really weird, but eventually one will stick. Here, I chose my pose and now I'm going to start thumbnailing. Since we're digital, we have a lot of freedom of the dimensions of the canvas. Here, I'm exploring angles still in line with the emotion words. Sad and pensive can imply that I want to do something where he's far away in the frame, looking down potentially, or even one where we see his back. I was between the first one and the last one that I did, but I ended up choosing the first one because it'd be fun to see his expression and be fun to draw it out. I love faces. For step 3, we want to move on to the reference. So for this particularly, I'm going to go and try and find Roxas's costume reference, weapon reference, time of day, the surface we see, and the style of the work if it's fan art. Not to say the work has to be in that style, but sometimes you might want to include designs and motifs from that work. This is some of the stuff I gathered. I'm not really making anything up, and this isn't really a complicated piece, so I don't have too much reference. But this will still inform the piece, especially on the lighting. For those of you making stuff up off of the top of your head, it's really good to have a whole lot of reference you can draw from and make everything look way more grounded in reality. Basically here, this is my process. I usually fight through really ugly drawings and weird ass forms until it starts to come together. A lot of it for me is checking and double checking. Instead of going from a sketch to line art, I do have a few more steps in between to make sure I'm making the most appealing drawing possible. I will make a video specifically about that process in the future and just how I think of stuff. When I color, it's basically the same thing. I like lighting my characters because it says a lot about how they feel. For background colors, I'm laying it in super roughly based off of the reference that I gathered. I have an idea how I want to light Roxas too, but first I'm going to lay in the local colors and do some Photoshop color manipulation. I can do a video specifically on that in the future too. It's a lot like the line art. I play with it and I finesse it until I get something I'm okay with. This is the final piece. It came out okay for the ideas that I want to showcase here in this video. You guys should definitely try these tips to revamp your old art and even your new ideas. Let me know in the comments if you have worked from 2009 to 2011, that whole weave era, and we can geek out together. Thanks for watching!